Hello, everyone, and welcome to the VISTA Sponsor Orientation webinar. This session is a first glimpse of the information and resources needed to carry out your new role as VISTA Project Director, and it's an important starting point to get you situated in the world of AmeriCorps VISTA. We're extremely happy to have you with us today, and you'll hear from two CNCS staff members throughout the presentation. My name is Eric Powell, and I'm an AmeriCorps VISTA training specialist at the Corporation for National and Community Service in Washington, D.C., and I happily served as an AmeriCorps VISTA member in 2006 and a VISTA leader in 2008, and I love national service.
Hi, everyone. I'm Patty Smith, and I am a state program director, recently from a state program officer with the Office of Field Liaison at the Corporation for National and Community Service, and I'm located in Birmingham, Alabama. I started my journey on national service in 2001 and 2002, where I served as an AmeriCorps VISTA member in a little old town of Oxford, Mississippi. So I love national service, and I'm glad for the opportunity to now have this as my job. So throughout the presentation, we may be joined by a few other CNCS state or regional office representatives, as well as VISTA colleagues assisting us with the chat panel and working together to provide you essential information and answer your questions.
Thank you, Patty. It's great to have you with us. And speaking of having you with us, we have a lot of people on this webinar, so let's hear a little bit from you. You've already learned a little bit about us, so we have a couple of questions for you to go ahead and type in the chat panel now. What is the name of your organization? Where are you located? And what is your favorite thing to do in winter? Go ahead and quickly type those in the chat panel so we can get a chance to see who's on the webinar. And as you type, we'll go ahead and quickly answer those questions as well. You already know that Patty and I both work for CNCS, and you know where we're located. I would probably say that right now my favorite winter activity to do is anything in the snow. I was born in Massachusetts. I love snow. I feel like I'm a snowbird even though I can't fly. But yes, I love anything snow related. Patty, how about you? What do you love to do in the winter?
So Eric, I must kind of agree with you. I am a person who likes to watch the snow. I grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, so
Nice.
Snow is synonymous with winter for me. So yeah, I think that's probably one of the best things that I like about the winter is watching the snow.
I knew we were kindred spirits. And I see a lot of people. Pat loves watching the snow. Taja's in New Jersey. She actually likes summer better. I'm not against that. Summer's a great season. I think it's too hot, but that's my own personal opinion. A few people in Colorado, Texas, Missouri. Again, people like watching the snowfall. Maria loves to go to the park and chill at the beach in the winter. I've only been to the beach in the winter once, and it was really cold, but maybe I missed something. So there's a lot more feedback coming in. Keep those coming in. As you look at the chat quickly, keep in mind if there's people that you can connect with that are in your area or people that like to do what you do, feel free to reach out to them in the chat. One of the great things about these webinars is it encourages networking among other VISTA sponsors and staff. So thank you for that activity. Patty, let's go ahead and continue with our introductory comments and then provide some context to the audience for this webinar and its purpose.
Thanks, Eric. While the information is most relevant for VISTA project directors, we designed this session so that everyone involved in the management and oversight of the VISTA project will gain valuable knowledge from reviewing this content. We recommend that VISTA project directors, project and site supervisors, as well as authorized representatives all review this content so your organization will be well prepared to manage a VISTA program in our development. We are assuming that you are relatively new or brand new to VISTA. In developing today's presentation, we are assuming that participants have looked at a number of material ahead of time. These include VISTA 101 and 201. And these materials are stored on the VISTA campus and are part of the entire VISTA sponsor orientation. Now, as you may have seen on the VISTA sponsor orientation materials page of the VISTA campus, the VISTA sponsor orientation encompasses more than just this webinar. So please go back and reference the website and more information. Now, to get a quick idea of where you are with these two courses, VISTA 101 and 201, you will see a quick anonymous poll open up on your screen, and it will only be available for about 30 seconds. Please select yes if you have completed them, no if you have not gotten to them yet, or in progress if you started but did not yet finish. Okay, you will likely have been made aware of these courses on the VISTA Sponsor Orientation Materials page of the VISTA campus or through communication from your CNCS state or regional office. We create resources like these courses and more to best prepare you for being a VISTA sponsor. And these VISTA 101 and 201 courses are just the beginning. As you review other important resources such as the VISTA Sponsor Handbook, the VISTA Resource Guide, and additional information on the VISTA campus, there is a lot of information available, much to learn, and a lot to do. So it is important to give us, it's so important to us to give you access to what you need while you're in your role. Now, it is also essential for you to know that you do not have to develop everything from scratch, as numerous supervisors have templates, tools, and useful tips to share based on their experiences. This is one more reason why we strongly encourage you to utilize the Supervisor VISTA Campus discussion forum to create discussion topics, respond to other postings, ask questions, share ideas and suggestions, and connect with other sponsors and supervisors. We will close the poll and now take a look at the results.
Thank you for that, Patty. It looks like a lot of people have been busy working while you were talking and responding to the poll, and so far we've seen about 40% of people who responded to the poll have already completed VISTA 101 and 201, which is great. It's a great starting foundation, which is why we strongly encourage you to do it. And 29% of people have not yet done it. 31% are in progress, so good. Those are some good statistics. And I do want to mention that if you have not yet completed these courses, or if you're currently in progress and maybe you have a lot going on, we do recommend that it is in your best interest to complete them as soon as possible. We really feel that it'll best situate you for success as a VISTA sponsor. Because of course, the more prepared and knowledgeable that you are about the VISTA program, the better you can support your project and your VISTA members. So let's take a look at what we're going to cover in today's presentation. This session today will focus on key pieces that will give you the initial information that you need to ensure your success as a VISTA project. We'll cover where to start, talking about resources and people that can help you get your bearings in the world of AmeriCorps. In the big picture, we'll provide an overview of CNCS, including the structure of national service, CNCS programs, our chain of communication, and the core principles of VISTA. Of course, it wouldn't be a complete webinar without talking about core responsibilities, your specific responsibilities relating to VISTA member support and project management, as well as important governing documents for our work together. We'll provide you some keys to success, including tips, tools, and resources that are available, and a sense of what success looks like. Then we'll give you specific next steps where to go on your learning path. We'll wrap up with final comments and end with question and answers. In the chat panel of today's webinar, you can access a link to download an optional one-page acronym list key. This list contains commonly used acronyms that you will hear during this webinar and beyond, and the file is in Microsoft Word format so that you can add to the list as you learn more. We hope by now that all of you at least know the acronym VISTA, and if you don't, I would encourage you to hurry up and figure out what that means, because we are VISTA. Everyone should know what that means. But of course, there's going to be acronyms that only the seasoned VISTA project sponsors will know. Remember to keep this document accessible as you get to know CNCS structure, our staff, and the VISTA project requirements as outlined by your CNCS state or regional office. Even though most of these acronyms pertain to the work of supervisors and sponsors, you may occasionally get questions from VISTA members, so you will want to be well informed.
So if you are a new VISTA sponsor, it can be overwhelming to figure out what you need to know, where to find information, and who to reach out to for help. So here are a few key resources for you. We will refer to these throughout the presentation today. And as a result of our presentation, We want to be sure that everyone on today's webinar will learn a core set of terms for VISTA project management. This graphic shows where to find information on a variety of topics. The resource on this screen will connect you to websites and resources such as the CNCS website, which will connect you to various things, including publications. You should create a VISTA Campus account if you have not done so already, and review the sponsor handbook and check out other VISTA sponsor and supervisor information that is available. eGrants, for instance, contains information about your application, VISTA assignment descriptions, reporting, and other topics. The resources on the screen now will connect you to people and regulations as you seek support and guidance. The National Service Hotline is who you contact with eGrants issues, questions about VISTA member pay and relocation benefits, and cost share billing. You would contact your CNCS state or regional office for information about project compliance, issues with VISTA members, changing and approving VADs, and anything else that's project related. It is important for you to know what resources are available to you and where they are so that you can also obtain the support you need in your VISTA project. These links and more are available in your VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide. As a reminder, you can find a link to the Sponsor Resource Guide in the chat panel. Now, I want to underscore the importance of establishing communication expectations with your staff, VISTA members, sub-site staff, and CNCS. One way to avoid unforeseen issues and complications during the VISTA year is to establish a solid communication change. In this task, your top resource and regular point of contact will be your CNCS state or regional office. We'll talk more a little bit later about the role of the CNCS state or regional office and its importance to you. When VISTA members and supervisors have questions or concerns, they will likely come to you first as the VISTA sponsor representative. Depending on how your project is structured, it might be the case that you are the main point of contact for members and supervisors. For questions relating to benefits, you can direct your VISTA member to the VISTA Member Support Unit, also known as VMSU, as well as resources on the VISTA campus, such as the benefits section and the VISTA Member Handbook. If it's a question that you are not able to address, reach out to your CNCS state or regional office, and they have access to other parts of CNCS in the event you need additional input. Technical assistance and support from the CNCS state or regional office can take many forms, such as they can, one, provide technical assistance for things like eGrants, member recruitment, training, reporting, VADs, and other things you're responsible for. Two, they can offer support for you with regard to member management, supervision, and challenges. Three, they can notify you of any compliance and schedule time to monitor your project to make sure you are in compliance. Now, in addition to the resources included on the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide, we want to highlight some key content.
On top of the list is your CNCS state or regional office. They are here to help you ensure that you have the tools, resources, and knowledge that you need to lead a successful VISTA project. The VISTA Sponsor Outreach and Recruitment page referenced here should be one of the first places that you go because it contains information about recruitment, marketing, fact sheets, and much more. Much of the material available on this page is print ready, so be sure to check it out. We also encourage you to create a free account on the VISTA campus because it's filled with many, many helpful tools and resources. And of course, you know the website is vistacampus.gov. You can find the member handbook and sponsor handbook there, as well as a variety of courses to help you through the life of your project. There's also a supervisor forum where you can have a dialogue with other supervisors from around the country. Many of the resources highlighted on the resource guide point you to the VISTA campus, so be sure that you have an account as a supervisor, otherwise you won't be able to access everything that's referenced in the sponsor resource guide. Also, a few more resources. The National Service Hotline offers support to you as well as to your members and supervisors. They can help with common egrants questions, reset passwords, etc. And they can also escalate calls to the egrants help desk. Be sure to keep the egrants support link handy, but remember that you can also call the National Service Hotline if you run into issues. The National Service Hotline will also escalate specific calls to the VISTA Member Support Unit, or the VMSU. The VMSU is an office at VISTA headquarters that troubleshoots member issues specifically related to the living allowance, relocation payment issues, or other benefits, and they can answer questions about benefits such as the education award also. And then finally, we know a lot of people talk about VISTA gear and materials, so we have the website on the screen, pubs.nationalservice.gov. This is a site where you can find things like posters, brochures, materials. These resources are free, and they may prove very useful to you to assist in recruiting and talking about the VISTA program. And speaking of gear, let me quickly give you a heads up that sometimes VISTA members come to you with questions about gear and aren't sure what's going on. So as VISTA members start service, in their beginning couple of weeks of service, the VISTA training unit sends them an email with specific instructions on how they can order specific free gear that we provide them. We give them up to 6 free items, which includes a VISTA polo shirt, a t-shirt, a lapel pin, a tote bag, a journal, and a water bottle. These items are restricted to only VISTA members, and they must be ordered by the members themselves using the specific instructions that they are sent. However, there are lots of other materials and resources that you as a sponsor can order on this website.
Thanks, Eric.
You're welcome. In addition to the resources that we have and provide, there are additional resources that you might want to know about or have heard from other staff members at your organization. So go ahead now and type your specific answer in the chat to this question. What additional resources do you or your VISTA project use to manage the VISTA project? Post your comments in the chat and see if you see ideas that you think may be great for your VISTA project. Feel free to copy and paste them into an email or a document on your computer so that you can have and use them in the future. You all on this webinar are a great resource for each other as you're starting out, as you're learning the ropes and getting to know your CNCS state and regional office. So be sure to connect with each other to make the work a little bit easier. Looks like a couple of responses are coming in about what other resources. Some people have mentioned they use resources that other staff have given them if they're a new supervisor, but the project has been going on for a while. Some people don't have any additional resources right now, which is completely understandable, especially if you are a brand new VISTA project within the past couple of weeks. And there were a few other comments earlier of some websites people mentioned that they've heard of or that they've talked to other CNCS staff or other VISTA projects about that can really get them highlighting how to make their VISTA project work, especially around recruitment. And there's another one, some people use support from the community specifically because obviously if you're a VISTA project, you can do a lot of the work, but if you don't have community buy-in or community support, it's kind of difficult to make impact and make change. And then finally, I see one more. One of the resources, creating timesheets and reporting forms, etc., to make your job easier so you're not doing everything on your own and you have everything documented in place. These are great, great ideas. And again, don't worry if you don't have any ideas yet. You'll have more ideas coming in this webinar and in future webinars that we'll talk about later on in the presentation. And also, as you get further into your role and hear more from your CNCS state or regional office, you can take time to learn from them, explore the VISTA campus, and feel free to pay attention to more of the upcoming materials and resources that we have for you on the VISTA campus website. So for those of you who took VISTA 101 and those of you who are in process for VISTA 101, you learned about the VISTA program, its mission to empower communities to find solutions to eliminating poverty, and how VISTA members build capacity, since that's one of the foundational elements of the VISTA program. If you have not yet completed VISTA 101 and 201, again, we recommend you do so pretty soon, and also refer to the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide for additional resources to support your onboarding with the VISTA program. But we're now going to shift to take a minute and discuss a few key principles that are central to the VISTA program. The Corporation for National and Community Service improves lives, strengthens communities, and fosters civic engagement through service and volunteering. As the nation's largest grant maker in support of service and volunteering, CNCS engages Americans of all ages and backgrounds in service to their communities each year through Senior Corps, AmeriCorps, and other programs. CNCS was created in 1993, and it engages more than 5 million Americans every year in improving communities through service. CNCS also supports service at national, state, and local levels with a variety of service opportunities. I'll turn it over to Patty now to dive a little bit deeper into the work that CNCS does by discussing CNCS's program areas.
Thanks, Eric. Under that broad mission of CNCS, there are two main program areas, Senior Corps and AmeriCorps. Senior Corps was created in 1965 and includes 3 different programs to engage and serve senior adults in the U.S. Who are 55 and older and can join the RSVP, Senior Volunteer Program, Foster Grandparent Program, or the Senior Companion Program. AmeriCorps was created in 1994, and over 1 million members have contributed over 1 billion hours of service across Americas. As you can see, there are 3 different AmeriCorps programs: AmeriCorps State and National, AmeriCorps NCCC, and AmeriCorps VISTA. CNCS state and regional offices administer VISTA and Senior Corps programs with your support. In Alabama, we have over 30 VISTA programs and about 200 VISTA members. They also oversee around 26 Senior Corps programs that manage about 7,500 volunteers. This is just one of many examples of CNCS state and regional offices and the programs involved. Next, we'll turn our attention to the history of VISTA.
As many of you probably know, the VISTA program has a very rich history. In 1964, President Lyndon B. Johnson declared a war on poverty and signed the Economic Opportunity Act. The act created Volunteers in Service to America, which we know as VISTA, and other programs to combat poverty. VISTA is authorized under the Domestic Volunteer Service Act of 1973 as amended. The DVSA is a statute, and we know statutes define the legal boundaries within which the VISTA program may operate. Fast forward to 1993, President Bill Clinton signed the National and Community Service Trust Act, which helped create both CNCS and the AmeriCorps programs. The National Community Service Trust Act also merged several national service programs, including VISTA, to be part of AmeriCorps. Then, the 2009 Edward M. Kennedy Serve America Act reauthorized and expanded CNCS's national service programs. Your specific VISTA projects were selected because they demonstrate a substantial connection to VISTA's mission, objectives, and principles. As you know, VISTA's mission is to strengthen organizations that alleviate poverty through volunteering and the mobilization of resources. VISTA is the only AmeriCorps program focused exclusively on fighting poverty. VISTA also has 3 specific objectives of the program: to strengthen local agencies and organizations to carry out the purpose of the program, to encourage volunteer service at the local level, and to generate the commitment of private sector resources. As you can see, VISTA's objectives directly support building capacity in the community. Finally, these are the 4 core principles that shape everything that AmeriCorps VISTA does: anti-poverty focus, community empowerment, capacity building, sustainable solutions. And remember, your VISTA projects were selected because they demonstrate a strong connection to VISTA's mission, objectives, and core principles. So now that you know that, we're going to review some key terms and definitions. And remember that this information is based on VISTA's authorizing legislation, and it's important to understand how each role is defined. A project or VISTA project means a set of VISTA activities operated and overseen by a VISTA sponsor. Sponsor, project sponsor, VISTA sponsor, or VISTA project sponsor means a public agency or private nonprofit organization that receives assistance and is responsible for operating and overseeing the VISTA project. Keep in mind that a public agency may be a federal, state, local, or tribal government. Project Director or VISTA Project Director means a project staff person of the sponsor who has been assigned the overall responsibility for managing the VISTA project. Project Directors are responsible for executing all aspects of the project as outlined by the sponsor. A supervisor, should be no surprise, is an individual who directly supervises a VISTA member. And keep in mind that all VISTA members should have a direct supervisor. This can be at the project level or at a site subrecipient level, but project sponsors are responsible for ensuring that every VISTA member supervisor is trained. And it is important to note that there are some project directors who are also direct supervisors of VISTA members. And then the CNCS state or regional office, where Patty works, is one of several offices representing all 50 states, the District of Columbia, and U.S. territories. Some offices are responsible for multiple states and territories, and these offices are responsible for monitoring and supporting VISTA projects, officially accepting candidates into federal national service, and more. So next, Patty will talk about how CNCS state or regional office staff can really help you with issues with outreach, program development, technical assistance, monitoring, and evaluation in support of your VISTA project.
By now, you should be familiar with your CNCS state or regional office and who your program officer or portfolio manager is. So let's do a quick check to see who you work with. Please type the name of your CNCS program officer or portfolio manager in the chat. All right, thank you. I see a few of my colleagues listed in the chat, and it's totally okay if you do not currently know who your program officer or portfolio manager is. You will want to find out soon. In addition to contacting your direct program officer, you are able to send an email to your entire CNCS state or regional office using the two-letter state abbreviation followed by @CNCS. For example, Texas would be tx@cns.gov. As we said at the beginning, we know a bunch of folks on today's webinar are new to our work, so you may not have had a chance to connect with the CNCS state or regional office team yet. As we discussed earlier, CNCS state and regional offices manage the AmeriCorps VISTA and Senior Corps programming for their state. AmeriCorps state grants are managed by a separate entity known as a state commission. For VISTA projects, the CNCS state and regional office staff help develop and then manage and monitor VISTA projects in their state, and often in other states for large and national projects throughout their life cycle. They are there to support you in managing your project and your VISTA members. They're available to assist with member emergencies, challenging situations, and policy questions. They can also support you by connecting you to resources and training tools for your members. Now, one important note here. The CNCS state or regional office also plays an important role in approving candidates for VISTA service and removing members from service. As a reminder, only CNCS can approve members for service. The CNCS state or regional office carefully reviews all applicants that you recommend for VISTA service to ensure they're a good fit for the program. Likewise, CNCS alone has the authority to remove a member from service. This is one of the reasons why it's critically important for you to update your CNCS state or regional office early and often when it comes to member issues. We'll talk more about the importance of documenting member performances and actions later. Now, your VISTA members are critical and necessary for the success of your VISTA program. As you know, VISTA service is a 12-month full-time, meaning 35 to 40 hours a week commitment, where VISTA members provide service to build capacity and sustainability with programs that work to alleviate poverty. VISTA members they are not employees, interns, nor volunteers of or with the sponsoring organization. Vistas serve at the sponsoring agency. They do not work there. Vistas receive a modest living allowance that aligns with the communities they are serving. Now let's look at a few important topics for your members and those of us who support them. Members have questions on a variety of topics, and the topic of their questions often depend on how far into their service term they are. VISTA questions tend to fall under one of these categories: benefits, forms, end of service benefits, travel, and service letters. Now, members who are about to start service might have more questions about the amount of their living allowance, as well as when and how it's paid. Now, don't forget to fully explain member benefits and address some of these topics while interviewing those highly qualified candidates. For example, some benefits such as a living allowance are available to all VISTA members. Other benefits such as relocation assistance and child care are only available to some VISTAs and require the VISTA member to take action in order to make use of those benefits.
As part of their required onboarding forms and coursework, it's important that you will know what specifically members need to do, such as completing their W-4 and direct deposit information and everything else you see on the screen. Members really should keep their direct deposit information updated because if they change banks, if they relocate for service, we need to make sure the money is going to the correct person. And we want them to receive their living allowance on time. And remember that sponsors are also required to reimburse members for any service-related travel that is required of them, not for commuting, but if you're requiring your VISTA to go to a site for a meeting, there needs to be some type of reimbursement from the sponsor. And I'll give you an example, specific example. If the VISTA assignment description outlines that the VISTA member will be traveling to a community meeting or a community event to really understand how their VAD relates to what's going on in the community, setting up partnerships, etc., the sponsor either needs to arrange transportation for them or find a way that they would reimburse the VISTA members at your organization's rate for their travel. In addition to the required onboarding forms, VISTA candidates are required to accept the terms and conditions of VISTA service before they can start. This is an online course that they can take on the VISTA campus, and it takes about 25 to 30 minutes to complete. And since sponsors should also understand these topics to best assist their members, we'll very briefly walk through a few more important topics for VISTA members. Newer VISTA members oftentimes have questions about how to request federal forbearance on their educational loans, or how the end-of-service cash stipend differs from the education award. One important note that I want to mention really quickly is to distinguish the living allowance from the stipend. The living allowance is the money that VISTA members are paid every 2 weeks, whereas the stipend is specifically a benefit that only comes at the end of service and only for those members who request that specific end-of-service benefit. We're not going to go into detail about each of these as there is much more information on the VISTA campus, but this screen does show numerous topics of interest to VISTA members. It is ultimately the VISTA members' responsibility to understand the details around each of these topics, including knowing where to find the benefits and details, which benefits may apply to them, and knowing what actions they must take to utilize each benefit. But again, it is important that you know the details around them so that you can not only support your VISTA members, but also inform candidates during recruitment and help attract candidates to your VISTA project. You can find a lot more details about all of these benefits on the vistacampus.gov website. And on this page, again, you can see lots of links to great resources for these types of questions. You should already have links to this in the chat. You can also take a picture of the screen if you want to capture it for yourself. It's also in the handout that you're able to download from the webinar. We want to highlight the VISTA Campus Benefits Hub, which is the first place to go for information about VISTA member benefits. Next is the VISTA Member Handbook, which is an extremely important document outlining guidance and policies around these topics and more. Make sure that you reference that as well as the VISTA Sponsor Handbook and Resource Guide for links to more detailed guidance. And then also, as we mentioned before, VISTA members are able to contact the VISTA Member Support Unit, or VMSU, for benefits questions that cannot be answered on the VISTA campus. So before we continue, we'll pause for a minute and see if there's any questions that came in the chat panel on what we've covered so far. We do have quite a bit more to cover, but we'll see what other questions came in. So Patty, there was one question that I will turn over to you, and I'll read the question. It was from Stephen. It was a really good question about recruitment and interviewing, and the question was, does our state or regional office also interview candidates or not? Would you like to take that question?
Sure, Eric. Thank you. And thank you, Stephen, for that question. So I have learned that some of our state offices do participate in the interview process. But overall, the overwhelming majority of state offices do not. We often provide resources and like a set of standard questions that you could ask, but I don't think that there's any, anything that would prevent you from asking your state office or regional office or to participate in an interview process.
Excellent comment, and I'll just add, obviously, I'm sure all of you want to do thorough interviews to make sure you get a quality candidate. Make sure that you also look on the VISTA campus, because over the years we've posted lots of resources on interviewing and recruiting. You can just use the search field at the top of the website for specific VISTA resources. Some of them have also been put up there by current and previous VISTA sponsors, so definitely take a look at that. And I'll wait just another second or two to see if there's any final questions coming in based on what we've covered so far. We've talked about where to start and the big picture. If there are more questions, feel free to post them in the chat panel. We will get to them as we get later on into the presentation, where there might be more questions coming in. So let's go ahead and move on and quickly review our agenda. As we mentioned, we've shown you where to start and how to get started as a VISTA project sponsor and what to do. We then transitioned into the big picture, giving you an overview, high level of what's going on, how the VISTA program works, and how it fits within the CNCS national structure. Our next section will focus on some of the core responsibilities that VISTA sponsors have. So first, as a VISTA sponsor, you have joined VISTA sponsors from across the nation in the mission of fighting poverty in your community. Your role is extremely important to the success of the project, the members, and ultimately the impact on the poverty community. Every VISTA project is accountable for the responsibilities that we will outline, but each sponsor may assign these responsibilities as appropriate within the organization and the project. It is ultimately the sponsor's responsibility to ensure that all subsites are in compliance with VISTA policies and procedures.
So let's look at core responsibilities relating to member management. A successful VISTA project starts with a strong and effective recruitment plan. At a minimum, this includes creating solid and detailed VISTA assignment descriptions, also known as VADs, with tasks appropriate to VISTA service that guide members throughout the year. So make sure your VADs do not have any mention of direct service and that the member activities focus on building capacity of the VISTA project. Drafting catchy and honest opportunity listings to announce your position and attract top quality candidates. You can create these in eGrants and they appear in the My AmeriCorps portal. And make sure the details of your opportunity listing align with actual items in your VAD so that your potential applicant understands that what they'll be doing. Now, recruiting, screening, interviewing, and recommending the best applicants for service. Providing an in-depth on-site orientation and training to all incoming VISTA members at the beginning of their service to include the VISTA member orientation requirements as well as fingerprint instructions and deadlines. Remember that all new VISTA members must start service in conjunction with a VISTA member orientation, also known as a VMO, start date, and you can get those possible start dates from your CNCS state or regional office. And all of the details that we send VISTA members about their VMO, and you can see it as well, are on www.vistacampus.gov/starting-VISTA-service. Now, this OSOT or on-site orientation training should also include opportunities for professional development and learning. Strong VISTA sponsors do this well and find ways to integrate various aspects of their organization as well as the community, with important things that the VISTA member should know, as well as with the interests and skills of the VISTA member. Now, here are a few more important aspects of AmeriCorps VISTA member management. It's probably no surprise that the best projects offer day-to-day supervision and support of their members. Now, this includes confirming the members have the space, supplies, and equipment necessary to carry out their service. Setting up regularly scheduled, rarely missed meetings with your members and maintaining effective communication. Providing reasonable accommodations to members who request them based on different abilities, and ensuring that members' activities are in alignment with their VADs. Even the best run projects have member issues bubble up. So don't be disappointed if things get a little tricky. The important thing is to manage those member issues appropriately. That means addressing members' issues as they arise, informing the CNCS state or regional office early of issues, documenting all discussions, tracking performance, and keeping on top of the situation. And remember, only CNCS may remove members from your project, and only CNCS may terminate your members. So your documentation of member issues and discussing them with CNCS state or regional offices is very important. Timekeeping. Develop a system to track VISTA members' use of personal and medical leave, because it is your responsibility to monitor and manage the use of VISTA members' leave time. Remember that you can visit the VISTA member handbook for the rules regarding when it's permissible for VISTA members to use their leave time. In addition to the 10 personal and 10 medical days, VISTA members are entitled to most holidays observed by your organization, but seasonal breaks, i.e. being off for an extended period of time, such as a week during the winter holidays or more than 2 consecutive days, it needs to be discussed with your CNCS state or regional office. Data management. Have your member track what they accomplish. This will certainly help ensure you have accurate data when it's time to report on performance measure targets. Consider creating a procedure manual or a resource to keep track of steps that you or your VISTA members take to develop and send out communications. Update it online, website, or flyer, or something like that. These elements are part of sustainability as you and your VISTA members identify things you can do to keep the project going well into the future. Now, as a reminder, the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide is a comprehensive list of resources to help you successfully manage members. In addition to the topics mentioned earlier related to performance and member management, the following activities are allowed but must be approved in advance. With prior approval by the sponsor and the CNCS state or regional office, AmeriCorps VISTA members are allowed teleservice serving at a location other than their project site for limited duration. They are allowed to hold outside employment. They are allowed to attend educational courses. However, even though these activities are allowed, the VISTA member must request this through the project director and then have it approved through the CNCS state or regional office. The CNCS state or regional office is always thinking about what's best for the project, and the CNCS state or regional office has the ability to deny requests that may interfere with the VISTA's member service or interfere with the project. Now, to be safe, you should consult with your CNCS state or regional office if any changes are made that impact or will impact the project, subsite, or members. This could mean a change with project personnel and supervision of members, or it could mean that due to emergent community needs, a VAD must be tweaked to better support alleviating poverty in your community. Regardless, it's always a good idea to check in with your CNCS state or regional office, and the sooner they know about these shifts, the more support they'll be able to give.
Now we'll take a look at some of your core responsibilities in adhering to restrictions on what can be done during VISTA service. Prior to service, VISTA members must complete the online terms and conditions course that we mentioned, which details what's provided to and allowed by VISTA members during service. If a member violates any one of the terms or conditions, you will need to contact your CNCS state or regional office staff immediately. Different violations have different repercussions, and for the protection of the project and any other members on board, it's critical to act promptly. In terms of criminal activity, VISTAs and VISTA sponsors must report any criminal activity that occurs while they're in service to their CNCS state or regional office. And again, it's important to act promptly. Under religious activity, engaging in religious instruction, conducting worship services, or engaging in any form of proselytizing during VISTA service is prohibited. And specifically around prohibited political activity, engaging in partisan political activities while in service, for example, engaging in fundraising for a partisan political campaign at any time, or advertising oneself as a VISTA while engaging in partisan political activity, are all prohibited. Many of you might be familiar with the Hatch Act, and if you're not, you might want to take a look at it just to keep it in mind. The Hatch Act is a federal law that was first enacted in 1939. VISTA members are considered federal employees for a few limited purposes, including the Hatch Act. In this bill, the Hatch Act ensures that all federal employees and VISTA members do not participate in political activity prohibited under the rules of the Hatch Act. Keep in mind that VISTAs also cannot be involved in voter registration as part of their VISTA service. They can do it technically if it's not part of their VISTA service, though, and would need to just do it on their own time, not wearing any VISTA gear, and not identifying themselves as a VISTA member. In summary, VISTAs cannot engage in political activity, religious activity, lobbying, or union organizing as part of their VISTA service or while perceived to be a VISTA member. They can go to rallies or attend church services on their own non-VISTA time, but they cannot engage in either type of activity while serving or while identifying as a VISTA. Also, the Hatch Act prohibits VISTA members from fundraising or soliciting money for a partisan political campaign at any time during their year of service, and that's prohibited whether it's during their service hours or on their own time. However, they may personally donate to a partisan political campaign. Also, in terms of prohibited activities, in terms of supplanting staff, members shall not perform duties that should be done or are typically done by paid staff or contractors. This would be a major red flag because VISTA members are placed at organizations not to take the place of staff, but to be catalysts for change by building capacity and strengthening organizations with the goal of eradicating poverty. I'm sure people are familiar with the rules of nepotism, but we'll mention that we ask that you avoid the actual or appearance of favoritism in the operation of a VISTA placement. A VISTA member cannot be placed or assigned to a VISTA project site if the VISTA member is an immediate family or close relative of a project site staff member, or vice versa. Direct service is a big one. While direct service is not a prohibited activity in the legal sense, VISTA should not directly serve project beneficiaries, such as helping clients fill out disability forms, tutoring children directly, or working the counter at a food pantry or Habitat Restore. However, VISTA members can take on such tasks when it is part of their larger project, such as spending a short period of time teaching a financial literacy course that they developed simply to test the curriculum and testing the materials before transitioning the teaching over to someone else. But in the long term, the VISTA member would need to train staff or recruit community volunteers to continue with the teaching of the financial literacy courses in that example. And we know there's probably a lot of questions, a lot of comments. If you'd like more information or a full description of prohibited activities, we recommend you visit Chapter 15 of the VISTA Member Handbook. Let's take a look at the core responsibilities in terms of project management. You should know that all sponsors must follow the requirements and policies set forth in the Memorandum of Agreement. Your organization has entered into a legal agreement with CNCS to have this VISTA project. Also, all projects must have an anti-poverty focus. That means all project activities, from the application to the VISTA assignment description, should really tie back to alleviating poverty in your community. And if your project is already underway, which I'm guessing many of yours are, you might be responsible for the project's continuation. If you are responsible for a continuation, be sure to submit a continuation application 90 days before expiration of the Memorandum of Agreement, and more information about continuations you'll hear from your CNCS state or regional office. So let's do a really quick check-in. Take a minute and type your answer to this question in the chat panel. What is your project start date? We'll see people started in the past couple weeks, maybe a month or two ago. Shouldn't be too many that started a long, long time ago, but I see someone that said the summer, so that was maybe 6-7 months ago, April 13th. Okay, so there's some people on this webinar who have not yet started, but they're gearing up for a really exciting recruitment season. A lot of people started in the winter, my favorite season. Thank you so much for honoring me, even though I know that's not why you did it, but I'm still happy. And a few people in March and June. So okay, so it looks like most people either started their projects 6 months ago or are starting in the next 6 months. So that's actually a good time frame for those who started 6 months ago to really understand more rules and regulations about the program. And for those of you who have not yet started but are starting their VISTA project officially in March, April, May, June of this year, this will give you some foundational elements so that you can really start off on the right foot. And as with your question about the name of your program officer earlier, depending on when you started with your VISTA project, you may not know the exact project start date. You may not know the exact person in the CNCS state or regional office who's responsible for your project. That's okay. In the next month or two, that'll give you time to figure that out so you know who your point of contact is.
So if your VISTA project operates at more than one location or service site, you are required to have a memorandum of understanding with each of your sub-site. That's mostly for multi-site sponsors. Encourage partnership development with your multi-site sponsors. Accomplish certain cost share tasks depending on your agreement with CNCS. If you have questions about your agreement with CNCS, access the agreement in eGrants or talk to your CNCS state or regional office. You are required to submit various reports, including reporting on your performance measures. It's good to know that everyone is responsible for reporting in some way. So let's spend a little more time talking about the reporting requirements. There are also core responsibilities for reporting. Each VISTA project submits a set of reports to help CNCS review project progress. The information you provide in these reports demonstrates your program's impact, it demonstrates resource management, and it allows us to provide you better technical assistance. Since there are important things to note, Eric and I will talk through a variety of required reports. As we start, it's good to know that your CNCS state or regional office will provide all deadlines for your reports, and you'll be able to find instructions in the sponsor resource guide.
So as Patty mentioned, we're going to start talking about the main reports required from VISTA sponsors. As you know, all projects are required to submit many forms. One of them is what we call the Sponsor Verification Form, or SVF, the VISTA Project Progress Reports, or PPR, the VISTA Progress Report Supplement, VPRS, and Future Plans Form, FPS. I know there's so many acronyms, but you'll get used to them. Only projects that have a program or support grant have to submit a Federal Financial Report, or FFR. If you have any questions about the type of grant that you have with CNCS, you should first access your agreement in eGrants and look at the details. And if you can't find the answer, then talk to your CNCS state or regional office staff member. So first, every 2 weeks, you will submit a sponsor verification form in eGrants. This helps CNCS track which members are still actively serving at your project so we can prevent member overpayment. This information also ties in directly to VISTA member payroll for standard VISTA projects. So you need to make sure you absolutely set reminders for this report because this is required. If you're going to be out of the office, you should determine who's going to submit this report on your behalf. and this function must be completed by a staff member. You are not allowed to delegate it to another AmeriCorps member, an intern, or a volunteer. It has to be a staff member. You're also required to submit what we call the Project Progress Reports, or PPR. For the first year of your project, generally these are completed on a quarterly basis, so 4 times a year, and that may change over time, but the reports really should build on each other. Check with your CNCS state or regional office, and also look in eGrants for more details and due dates, depending on when your project year started. Because after your second year, progress reports oftentimes are semi-annual, and again, that's dependent upon your connection with your CNCS state or regional office. So that's why it's really important to, if you don't know who that person is, find out soon who your point of contact is so you can get answers to questions such as these. The progress report information will be part of your project's official record and will be used to evaluate a project's continuation into the future. If you have questions on what you should include, please take a look at the PPR instructions in the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide. And if you're a project that has multiple sites, you will need to establish a way to aggregate information about members serving at all of those sites. We really strongly recommend that you don't wait until your progress report is due to try to get it all done at the last minute, or to ask a question, or to share a member's impact. If you get great feedback about your members and work that they're doing or have questions, share that with your CNCS state or regional office as it happens, especially if there's a question or a concern. That way, your CNCS state or regional office staff can help share your successes and help solve problems and coach you through your challenges as they come. And as you think about VISTA reports, think about the benefit to your organization of documenting your progress, keeping track of lots of details, and striving for sustainability of many of your program activities. These reports are great for us, but we also know that a lot of the information that we collect will be useful for the tracking for your organizations as well. So I'll go ahead and mention the next report that we call the VISTA Progress Report Supplement, or VPRS. This report is only an annual report, so only once a year, and it tracks demographic information for your VISTA project. It's typically due late in the calendar year and is based on our agency's fiscal year, which is October 1st of one year through September 30th of the next. This means you will likely have to track information with your VISTA members on a monthly basis to accurately submit this report, and tracking it on a monthly basis also helps your VISTA members stay engaged with what they've accomplished. There are instructions on how to complete this report in the VISTA Sponsor Resource Guide. You also must complete a Future Plans Form, or FPF, for every member at the end of their term of service. The Future Plans Form unlocks for the member in their my.americorps.gov account 90 days prior to their end of service. The member completes Part A before they end service, then you or their direct supervisor submits Part B, which evaluates the member's service. So we do recommend that if you're not the VISTA member supervisor, you coordinate with that person to make sure that you're filling out Part B correctly. The member then has the opportunity to review your comments. For that reason, we strongly recommend that you host an exit interview with your VISTA member before they leave so that the member is aware of what you're going to enter for their review. And then once Parts A and B are complete, it then comes to the CNCS state or regional office for final review before processing. In terms of the Federal Financial Report, or FFR, for program and support grants, there is additional reporting requirements such as the FFR. Make sure that you connect with your CNCS state or regional office for more information on what is required of your specific grant, and be sure to loop in the fiscal staff at your organization as appropriate. If you do not have a program or support grant, you don't need to worry about the FFR. And finally, if you have a cost share agreement, cost share invoices are payable upon receipt. You will receive them either on a biweekly or a monthly basis in eGrants, depending on your agreement.
I'd like to share a few key points about these reports and forms. Now, we recommend you complete these forms early in the process. It can help you manage member recruitment and ties in directly to member and alumni benefits, specifically assessing the Education Award. For example, If a member wants to re-enroll or extend their service, then you should document how they've successfully supported your project and accomplished activities on their VAD and rate them accordingly. Now, this will help the CNCS state or regional office evaluate your and their request and compare it to our budget. Now, if a member needs to leave their service early or terminate their service, the CNCS state or regional office can unlock the future plans form. However, this request to release this form should not be the CNCS or regional office's first notification that the member will be terminating their service. Please bring the CNCS state or regional office into the conversation early so that we can help you troubleshoot any potential issues. Now, I know this is a lot of information to absorb. So again, if you have questions, please reach out to the CNCS state or regional office. We are here to help. Now, you've heard us talk about working with your CNCS state or regional office quite a bit already. Now, another core responsibility is to share the good, the bad, and the ugly with your CNCS state or regional office by communicating openly and early. You position them to best support you when you do that. There are some things that the CNCS state or regional office needs to hear about promptly rather than when your next progress report is submitted. Be sure to alert your CNCS state or regional office of major accomplishments and events, such as a new grant award, visits from elected officials, and any press coverage as they happen. So, rather than waiting for the next progress report. Your CNCS state or regional office will want to hear about and spread the word about your success. We love to hear those stories. So also notify them promptly of major emergencies, like if a member is hospitalized or arrested or they become AWOL, or if a member just early terminates, as well as any acute or chronic challenges with members. Performance or conduct issues are usually the main two. So your CNCS state or regional office is here to support you and needs to be up to date on your project status in order to do that effectively. Communicate with them about proposed changes to your project goals and member activities, i.e. any changes to the VISTA assignment description, as well as a shift in staff supervision or organization status. You'll also want to share information about your VISTA project with your communities and your networks. Please acknowledge the resources you receive by identifying AmeriCorps VISTA members as such, and listing AmeriCorps VISTA as a funder for your organization. You'll want to list AmeriCorps VISTA in your material on your website and mention the program in verbal conversations about your project. Now, keep your communication with the communities, pretty relevant. Make sure that everybody knows what's happening. Keep everybody in the loop. Now, your VISTA project, you want to spread both the word about the capacity and how you're building it, as well as to cultivate engagement and promote opportunities to serve with your organization. Now we're going to shift your attention to your core responsibilities for regulatory compliance. As a VISTA sponsor, it's your responsibility to comply with all regulations and requirements of the VISTA program. CNCS staff conduct, monitoring and compliance activities through the life of your project. Since AmeriCorps VISTA is a federal program, and like anything supported by taxpayer funds, we need to ensure that the program is well run, doing what it's supposed to, and spending money wisely.
CNCS staff ensure compliance by reviewing VADs to make sure that they are appropriate for VISTA service and to make sure that they are free from non-approved activities. You might be surprised, but we get a lot of VADs that have inappropriate activities or things that VISTA members should not be doing. We also want to mention that CNCS staff may also conduct site visits and compliance monitoring visits. Site visits generally are conducted by CNCS staff. Occasionally, headquarters personnel will attend as well, and they typically may be informational in nature in order to provide technical assistance or they might be for general project monitoring to see how things are going and check in. Compliance monitoring visits are always scheduled in advance and are very structured. They will probably include interviews with project staff, VISTA members, advisory council members if you have them, and community members or beneficiaries. Monitoring visits will include a review of documentation and procedures, and they will also include a letter outlining conclusions and needed corrected actions after the visit is over. CNCS does conduct these visits to make sure that grantees are following the rules of AmeriCorps VISTA for member and grant management and to provide support to VISTA sponsoring organizations.
You'll see that VISTA members also have a role when it comes to regulatory compliance. It is important to know that CNCS instructs VISTA members who feel they're being asked to do things that are not appropriate for their service to first talk about it with the supervisor. From there, they can talk with the CNCS state or regional office. If the issue isn't resolved, or if they want to remain anonymous, and they believe the matter relates to fraud, waste, or abuse, they can contact the CNCS Office of Inspector General. If a VISTA member believes they have been subject to illegal discrimination related to their VISTA service, they should immediately contact the CNCS Equal Opportunity Program, which will also be covered a little bit later. Now, remember to report concerns to your CNCS state or regional office, and they are there to, 1, help develop, manage, and monitor VISTA projects, support you in managing your project and your VISTA members, assist with member management, like emergencies, challenging situations, and questions of policy, and support you by connecting you to resources. We talked about prohibited activities a bit earlier in our presentation. So now let's review a few important points. VISTA members should focus on what's outlined in the VISTA assignment description, which should tie directly to the overall project plan that was approved by CNCS. Your VISTA service should be to build capacity, not undertake activities that can be construed as full-time direct service. If VISTA members are being asked to take over the work of staff, say someone who left the organization, that's replacing or supplanting staff, and it's not allowed. Or if a VISTA is mostly doing administrative support for someone, that's also not appropriate work for a VISTA member.
We've covered a lot today. The bulk of the presentation was in the first 3 bullets, so we're getting close to the end. And so far today, as we talked about, we've covered the big picture of national service. We talked through some of the major elements of VISTA sponsor responsibilities, and now we're going to move on to keys to success. And to ensure that you start off on the right foot, some people like to start on the left foot, but we start on the right foot, we'll share some member and project management keys to success. So here are some recommendations for strong AmeriCorps VISTA member management. Some of you may have already tried some of these already. It should be absolutely no surprise to you that ongoing communication with your CNCS state or regional office is critical. Make sure that they're aware of any challenges and wonderful things that happen. And in terms of recruitment, be sure to start early, be proactive, take time to locate members that are a good fit, do thorough interviews, understand the VISTA member benefits, and really understand and take the time to think about what it means to be a VISTA and what it could be like to live on the living allowance. Those things go a long way when you're recruiting. Invest time in drafting thorough and compelling opportunity listings to hook the right candidate on the my.americorps.gov website. And be sure, a lot of sponsors don't think about this, remember to think about how you can offer professional development and support during your VISTA member year service, and even especially during the on-site orientation and training. You want to develop a really strong OSAT plan to set VISTAs up for success for a great year of service. In terms of ongoing support and supervision, obviously it should be common sense, but a lot of VISTAs say that they don't get enough. For supervision of VISTA members, it's important to address issues early on, track their time and attendance, avoid direct service and prohibited activities, and work with your CNCS state or regional office if outside employment, teleservice, or direct service is requested. If you happen to have a VISTA leader, make sure you understand the role of a VISTA leader and that that person is not a VISTA supervisor, and utilize them to support, train, and guide your members. Always start out with scheduling a regular meeting with your VISTA members on a weekly basis. We recommend what we call, well, we didn't create it, but we call it the 10-10-10 method, spending the first 10 minutes dedicated to the VISTA member speaking and providing comments and questions about their service. The next 10 minutes focused on you speaking, responding to the VISTA, giving ideas and encouragement. And then the final 10 minutes for clarification, questions, professional development, etc. That keeps the meeting short and to the point and makes it easy to have on a weekly basis. In those meetings and throughout the year VISTA member service, work hard to retain and motivate your members by showing appreciation and recognition of them and their work. A lot of people focus a lot on recruitment, which is important, but you equally need to focus on retention of the VISTA members you currently have and will have. And as your VISTA member goes through the year of service, think carefully about their close of service. You'll want to help prepare them for their next steps once service is complete. This not only helps them transition out of service into their next opportunity, but it really helps you start planning for the next VISTA member and transitioning activities to another VISTA member and ultimately to the organization for sustainability. So let's shift and take a look at the top tips for success related to project management. Again, at the top of the list should be no surprise, ongoing communication with the CNCS state or regional office, and be sure to operate your projects in accordance with applicable laws, regulations, policies, certifications, and assurances with the best efforts you have to accomplish the goals that you set out for the AmeriCorps VISTA members in the project application in consultation with and involving the people of the communities to be served in planning, developing, and implementing the project. Like all federal agencies, CNCS has an Inspector General, whose office is responsible for preventing and detecting waste, fraud, and abuse. If you encounter any issues with your project, address them at the sponsor level, and if necessary, with your CNCS state or regional office. If the issues are not resolved, or if you want to remain anonymous, you can contact the Office of Inspector General. The Office of Inspector General takes all allegations seriously and conducts thorough investigations to ensure compliance with federal regulations and the terms of the VISTA program. VISTA members are protected by VISTA and CNCS from being subjected to discrimination or harassment. You also have an obligation to make sure that you do not subject anyone to discrimination or harassment. This applies to everyone you come in contact with, including VISTA members, clients, volunteers, and employees at your service site. CNCS's Equal Opportunity Office, that Patty just mentioned earlier, is responsible for and charged with reviewing and processing discrimination complaints filed by CNCS service members, including VISTA members. And with that, Patty will cover very important next steps as you continue through your VISTA sponsor orientation and work to create and maintain a well-run VISTA program.
All right, a lot of information. So we hope today's presentation has given you a good sense of the role of the VISTA sponsor and a sense of where to go to learn more. Let's review next steps as we start to wrap up today. Following this webinar, please email your CNCS state or regional office that you have completed this section. Now, your CNCS state or regional office will be able to answer your project-specific questions and can review next steps as you continue to learn about VISTA, your project, and your roles and responsibilities. If you are a sub-site supervisor, you will receive project-specific training from your project director. Remember that this webinar is just one part of the entire VISTA VISTA sponsor orientation. Make sure you go back to the VISTA sponsor orientation section of the VISTA campus and look at the orientation checklist to complete the remaining items. Now, as you prepare to manage a VISTA project, take time to review the resources that have already been shared with you and become familiar with the VISTA campus. You will find many helpful resources there, including discussion forums and the Supervisor Cafe, a discussion thread, and respond to other supervisors. You'll be able to share ideas and resources, answer each other's questions, and more. So finally, be sure to peruse and pursue other training as directed by the VISTA program and your CNCS state or regional office. The work you do is important, and we want you to be successful in managing your VISTA members and your VISTA project.